On the night of my 60th birthday, my husband of 37 years introduced me to his mistress at my own party in front of 200 guests. What I did next shocked everyone, including myself. A woman who'd spent decades being the perfect wife discovered her entire marriage was a performance, and the moment she stopped playing her role, she found something she lost years ago, herself. But walking away from everything she'd built would reveal secrets about love, power, and the courage it takes to choose yourself when everyone expects you to stay silent. This story is about a woman who discovered that her ending was actually her beginning. It's about Evelyn, who on her 60th birthday learned her husband had been living a double life, and instead of falling apart, she chose to finally live for herself. It's about the courage to walk away from comfort and into authenticity, proving that it's never too late to reclaim your life. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 10,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe to DR Revenge Stories, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. The champagne flutes gleamed under the crystal chandelier like tiny stars trapped in glass. I stood at the entrance of the Grand Meridian Ballroom, watching 200 guests mill about in their designer gowns and tailored suits, and felt absolutely nothing. Not excitement, not joy, not even the nervous flutter that usually accompanied large gatherings. Just a vast, echoing emptiness that had been growing inside me for months, maybe years. 60 years old today, 6 decades of life. 37 of them spent as Mrs. Richard Castellano. And standing here in this ballroom filled with people who thought they knew me, I realized I didn't even know myself anymore. "Mrs. Castellano, you look absolutely radiant tonight." Margaret Chen, wife of my husband's business partner, air-kissed both my cheeks, her perfume overwhelming. "60 has never looked so good. You must tell me your secret." "Thank you, Margaret," I smiled, the expression so practiced it required no thought, no emotion, just muscle memory. My face knew how to smile even when my heart didn't. She moved on, disappearing into the crowd of familiar strangers, people I'd known for decades but never really knew at all. Surface friendships, society connections, all of us playing our roles, wearing our masks, pretending we were happy. I found myself scanning the room for Richard, my husband of 37 years, the father of my 2 children, the man who had proposed to me on a beach in Santorini when we were both so young we thought love alone could sustain a lifetime. I spotted him near the bar, his silver hair perfectly styled, every inch the successful businessman, his Tom Ford tuxedo fitting him like it had been painted on. He was laughing at something, his head thrown back in that booming laugh I used to find charming. Now it just grated on my nerves like sandpaper, artificial and calculated. And next to him, touching his arm with an intimacy that made my stomach clench, was a woman I'd never seen before. She was young, not inappropriately young, but young enough. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Blonde hair swept up in an elegant French twist, a red dress that hugged curves in all the right places. She looked polished, professional, put together. She laughed at whatever Richard had said, and her hand lingered on his forearm just a second too long. Not obviously inappropriate, just familiar, comfortable, the touch of someone who'd touched him before, many times, in many ways. I should have felt something. Anger, betrayal, hurt, the hot rush of jealousy that wives in movies always felt when they discovered their husband's infidelity. But there was only that emptiness, spreading wider like a black hole consuming everything around it, and a strange sense of curiosity, detachment, like I was watching this happen to someone else. So this was it. This was the moment wives dreaded, the other woman. The mistress, the younger model. Except this didn't feel dramatic or devastating. It felt inevitable, like watching a storm roll in that you'd seen coming for miles.
"Mom!" My daughter Sophia appeared at my elbow, radiant in emerald silk. "Why are you standing here alone? This is your party." I let her pull me into the crowd, accepting hugs and birthday wishes from people whose names I struggled to remember, making small talk, complimenting dresses, laughing at jokes I didn't find funny. All the while, I tracked Richard and the woman in red from the corner of my eye. They moved together through the room like planets locked in rotation. When he refilled his drink, she was there. When she spoke to someone else, he hovered nearby, protective, attentive. It was subtle enough that most people wouldn't notice, but I had been married to Richard Castellano for 37 years. I noticed everything. The way his hand brushed the small of her back, the way his eyes followed her across the room, the way he leaned in when she spoke, giving her his full attention in a way he hadn't given me in years. "Evelyn, darling!" My sister Linda gripped my hands, her eyes searching my face. "Are you all right? You seem distant." "I'm fine, just overwhelmed by all of this." "Richard insisted, said you deserved a celebration worthy of the amazing woman you are." I almost laughed. Richard had said that? The same Richard who had forgotten our anniversary for the past 3 years? The same Richard who came to bed after I was asleep and left before I woke? "He's very thoughtful," I said instead, and Linda's expression told me she heard the hollowness in my voice. The dinner was lavish. Filet mignon, lobster tail, champagne that cost more per bottle than most people spent on groceries in a month. I sat at the head table, Richard to my right, our children flanking us like a portrait of familial perfection. The woman in red was seated 3 tables away, but I could feel her presence like a magnetic pull. Between courses, Richard stood, tapping his champagne flute with a knife. The room fell silent. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate my beautiful wife's 60th birthday." His voice carried across the ballroom, warm and practiced. "Evelyn and I have shared 37 wonderful years together. She has been my rock, my partner, my best friend." I smiled up at him, my face frozen in wifely devotion, while inside I cataloged all the lies in that simple statement. Rock? He hadn't confided in me in years. Partner? He made every major decision without consulting me. Best friend? We barely spoke beyond the logistics. She has given me 2 incredible children, built a successful career of her own, and been the grace and elegance behind every achievement I've ever had. He looked down at me, his hand on my shoulder, heavy and possessive. "Evelyn, you are extraordinary. Here's to many more years together." Everyone raised their glasses. As Richard sat back down, I saw him glance toward the woman in red. She smiled at him, subtle but unmistakable, and lifted her glass in a small, private toast. That's when I knew for certain. Not suspected, not wondered, knew. My husband was having an affair. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I pushed food around my plate, responded to conversations on autopilot, laughed when everyone else laughed. After dinner, there was dancing. Richard led me onto the floor for the first dance, his hand on my waist, maintaining the perfect distance between us. We moved together with the practiced ease of 3 decades, our steps perfectly synchronized, but there was no warmth in it, no connection. We were going through the motions. "You look beautiful tonight," Richard murmured. "Thank you." "Evelyn," his tone changed. "There's something I need to talk to you about. After the party. It's important." My heart didn't even race. I already knew what he was going to say. "Of course, whatever you need to discuss, we'll discuss." The song ended. We separated. I found myself near the terrace doors, needing air, needing to breathe something that wasn't perfume and cologne and the cloying scent of too many flowers. The November night was cool against my skin. I stood at the railing, alone for the first time all evening, and let myself breathe. It's beautiful, isn't it? I turned. The woman in red stood a few feet away, a champagne flute in her hand. "Yes," I said simply. She moved closer, standing beside me at the railing. Up close, she was even more striking. High cheekbones, clear green eyes, flawless skin. "You don't know who I am," she said quietly. "No, should I?" She took a sip of champagne. "My name is Claire Donovan. I work in Richard's marketing department. I've been with Costello Development for 2 years. I'm the vice president of marketing." I see. And I did see. Everything clicked into place. "I'm sorry," Claire said, genuine emotion in her voice. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I never meant to fall in love with a married man." There it was, the confirmation. "How long?" I asked. 8 months. She stared down at her champagne. She tried to end it, twice, but he said his marriage was essentially over, that you and he had been living separate lives for years, that he was going to tell you after the holidays. I almost laughed. After the holidays, of course. "He's planning to tell me tonight," I said. "After the party." Claire's head snapped up. "What? Tonight? I didn't know. I wouldn't have come if I'd known. This is your birthday." I studied her face. She looked genuinely distressed. Part of me wanted to hate her, but I couldn't muster the energy. "Don't apologize. You didn't break anything that wasn't already broken." We stood in silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" Claire's voice was small. "Do you still love him?" Did I? I loved who he was. I wasn't sure I knew who he is now. "I love who he was," I said finally. "I'm not sure I know who he is now." Claire nodded slowly. "He talks about you sometimes, says you're the strongest person he knows, that you're untouchable, perfect." "Perfect is just another word for lonely." She looked at me, understanding in her eyes. "You should go back inside. People will notice you're gone." "What about you?" "I need a few more minutes." Claire hesitated, then touched my arm briefly. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserve better than this." She walked back inside, and I was alone again with the city lights and my thoughts. I should have been crying, should have been furious, but all I felt was relief. Like a weight I hadn't known I was carrying had suddenly lifted. My marriage was over. Had been over for years, and now it was ending. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. I took out my phone and typed a message to my attorney, David Morrison. "David, it's Evelyn Castellano. I need to schedule a meeting. Monday morning if possible. It's urgent." His response came quickly. "Of course, Evelyn. 9 a.m. Monday. My office. Everything okay?" "It will be," I typed back. "Thank you." I returned to the party, armed now with purpose, with clarity, with a plan. If you're enjoying Evelyn's story and want to see how she handles this betrayal with grace and strength, please subscribe to DRE Avenge Stories. We share powerful narratives about people finding courage in their darkest moments. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss the rest of this incredible journey. Now let's see what Evelyn does next. Richard found me an hour later, as guests were beginning to leave. "Evelyn, can we go somewhere private? We need to talk." Of course. I followed him to a small meeting room off the main ballroom. He closed the door and we stood facing each other. The room was sterile. Beige walls, a conference table, fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. An appropriate setting for what was about to happen. "I don't know how to say this," he began, running a hand through his silver hair. "Then just say it, Richard. Just say what you came here to say." He looked surprised by my directness. "I've been unhappy for a long time. I think we both have been. We've drifted apart. We're not the same people we were when we got married. No, we're not the same people. I've met someone." The confession came quickly. I didn't mean for it to happen, but Evelyn, I feel alive again, and I can't ignore that feeling anymore. "Claire Donovan," I said quietly. His face went white. You know? I figured it out tonight. She's here, at the party. You couldn't stop looking at her during dinner. Jesus Christ. He sank into a chair. I never wanted you to find out like this. Arrange things properly, handle it discreetly. I repeated his likely plan. That's not what I meant. What did you mean, Richard? That you were going to schedule our divorce between your 3 o'clock and your 5 o'clock? He looked up at me. You're not even surprised. You're not crying or yelling. You're just standing there. Would you reconsider? I asked. If I cried and begged, would you stay? Would you give up Claire? No. He said it quietly but firmly. No, I wouldn't. Then why would I waste my energy? We stared at each other across the small room. 37 years of marriage, ending in a hotel meeting room. I'll be fair, Richard said, shifting into business mode. More than fair. You can have the house in Connecticut, half of everything, alimony. You'll never have to worry about money. How generous. You're destroying our marriage, but at least you'll pay me for my 37 years of service? Evelyn, please, I know this is hard. Do you? I moved closer. Do you know what it's like to realize your husband has been lying to you for 8 months, to meet his mistress at your own birthday party, to have him schedule telling you about his affair like it's a dentist appointment? I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you. Then you shouldn't have invited her tonight. You should have had the decency to tell me first. She wasn't supposed to come. She was on the guest list because all the senior staff were invited. And you didn't think to ask her to skip this one event? He was silent. You wanted her here, I said, understanding flooding through me. You wanted us both here. Why? To compare? To feel powerful? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Richard. I walked to the door, my hand on the handle. Where are you going? We need to discuss this, make plans, the children, the properties. I have plans. I'm meeting with my attorney Monday morning at 9 a.m. You should probably call yours.
Evelyn, wait. I paused, looked back at him one last time. Thank you, I said. What? Thank you for finally being honest. Thank you for giving me a reason to leave instead of just drifting along until we're both too old to care. Thank you for showing me that I deserve more than this. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I opened the door and walked out, and for the first time in years, I felt free. The party was winding down. I found Sophia and Marcus near the coat check. Mom, Sophia beamed. What an amazing party. Are you having a good time? I looked at my beautiful daughter, so happy, so oblivious to the earthquake that had just shattered her family's foundation. Tomorrow would be soon enough to tell her. The best time, I lied, kissing her cheek. Thank you both for being here. Where's Dad? Marcus looked around. Taking a call. You know how he is. Business never stops. They both laughed knowingly. I said goodbye to the remaining guests, accepted their compliments, thanked them for coming, played the gracious hostess to the very end. Linda cornered me by the elevators. What happened? You look different. Something changed. Different how? I don't know. Lighter somehow. Like you just put down something heavy. What's going on? I'll call you tomorrow, I promise. I took a cab back to our apartment, watching the city blur past the window. The apartment felt like a museum. Everything was perfect. Every surface gleamed. Absolutely sterile. I walked through the rooms, really seeing them for the first time. The living room where we entertained but never actually lived. The kitchen where we ate in front of the television without talking. The master bedroom where we slept on opposite sides of a king-size bed. When had it happened? When had we stopped being us? I went to the bedroom, unzipped my gown, let it pool at my feet, removed my jewelry piece by piece, washed my face, watching my real face emerge in the mirror. 60 years old, lines around my eyes, gray in my hair. I looked tired, but I also looked free. I lay down in bed and stared at the ceiling. I should have cried.
should have called my sister, should have done something dramatic, but I didn't. Instead, I thought about my life, really thought about it. I'd spent my 20s building Richard's career, my 30s raising our children, my 40s rediscovering myself, and now, 60, the age my mother had been when she'd told me she felt invisible. But who was I underneath all the titles and roles? If I stripped away wife, mother, hostess, who was Evelyn Foster? I didn't know, and that realization was more devastating than Richard's affair.
My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "Where are you? We need to talk about this." I typed back, "I'm home. I need time to process. Please stay somewhere else tonight." His response was immediate. "Evelyn, that's not reasonable. It's my home too. Then we'll discuss it with our attorneys. For tonight, I need space." He didn't respond. A few minutes later, I heard the front door open. Richard moving through the apartment, getting clothes. He appeared in the bedroom doorway with an overnight bag. "I'm getting some clothes. I'll stay at the company apartment for a few days." I know. I never wanted it to be like this. "How did you want it to be, Richard?" I finally looked at him. "What was your ideal scenario?" "I wanted honesty between us. I wanted us to acknowledge that we've been unhappy." I wasn't unhappy. I was comfortable, complacent maybe, but I wasn't actively unhappy, not until tonight. "Then you weren't paying attention." He said it gently. "When was the last time we had a real conversation, not about the kids or schedules, but about our lives, our dreams?" I opened my mouth to answer and couldn't remember. "When was the last time we laughed together or made love because we wanted to? When was the last time you looked at me and felt anything?" The tears finally came, silent and hot. "We lost each other," Richard said quietly, "and I don't know when it happened or how to fix it. Maybe it can't be fixed." "Maybe," I whispered. He crossed the room, kissed my forehead gently. "I'm sorry, Evelyn, for all of it. You deserved better than this." Then he was gone, and I was alone. I lay in the darkness and let myself finally feel it all. The betrayal, the hurt, the grief. But underneath all of that, something else stirred. Relief, freedom, the possibility of starting over. I was 60 years old, an age society considered past prime. But I had so much: a career, financial security, children who loved me, a sister, friends, health, time. I had time. Richard thought he was the one walking away, getting a fresh start, but he was wrong. I was the one walking away, from a marriage that had become a cage, from being someone's supporting actor, from living my life on pause. At 60, I was just getting started, and that realization made me smile through my tears. Evelyn's transformation is just beginning. If you want to see how she rebuilds her life and discovers who she really is, subscribe to DR Revenge Stories right now. We bring you stories of resilience and reinvention that will inspire your own journey. Click that subscribe button and stay with us. The best part is still to come. Monday morning, I woke with clarity I hadn't felt in years. I dressed carefully. Charcoal gray Armani suit. Pearl earrings my mother had given me, not the diamonds from Richard. Looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone I barely recognized, but kind of liked. David Morrison's office was in Midtown. His receptionist showed me straight in. "Evelyn," he gestured to the sitting area. "Coffee?" "Please. Black." He poured, handed me a cup, settled across from me. "Talk to me." I told him everything: the party, Claire, Richard's confession. When I finished, David was quiet. "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected." "Is that strange?" "Not at all. Sometimes the anticipation is worse than the reality." He pulled out a legal pad. "Now we protect you." He explained New York's equitable distribution laws: length of marriage, income disparity, contributions. "You're entitled to a substantial portion of everything you built together." I don't want to destroy him financially. I just want what's fair. That's exactly what this is about. "Have you documented your financial situation?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the notes I'd made Saturday night. David's eyebrows rose. "You've done your homework." I couldn't sleep, so I went through every financial document I could find. We spent the next 2 hours going through details: property division, asset discovery, timeline expectations. How long will this take? If Richard's feeling guilty and wants a quick resolution, maybe 6 months. If he fights everything, this could drag on for years. I don't want years. I want clean and fast. I want to move on. Then we'll aim for that. But Evelyn, be prepared. Divorce brings out the worst in people. I left David's office feeling armored. My phone rang as I walked to the subway. Sophia. "Mom, I've been calling you all weekend. Dad said you two had a fight. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Can we meet for lunch? There's something I need to tell you and your brother." That sounds ominous. "Lunch, 1 o'clock at Café Luxembourg. Can you call Marcus?" "Okay. Mom, you're really scaring me." "Don't be scared. Everything is going to be fine." Café Luxembourg was moderately busy when I arrived. I got a table in the back, ordered wine even though it was barely noon. Marcus arrived first, looking harried. "Mom, what's this about? I have a 2 o'clock meeting." Sophia arrived moments later, sliding in beside her brother. "Okay, we're here. What's going on?" I took a breath. "Your father and I are getting divorced." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. "What?" Marcus finally said. "Since when?" "Since Saturday night. He told me he's been having an affair. For 8 months. With a woman who works in his marketing department." Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus's face went hard. "That son of a bitch," Marcus said. "He did this at your birthday party?" "After the party, but yes, Saturday night. She was there. I met her." "Oh, Mom. Are you okay? Why didn't you call us?" "Because I needed time to process, to meet with my attorney, to figure out what comes next." "You already met with a lawyer?" Marcus looked impressed. "That was fast." "I'm not going to wallow. I'm not going to fall apart. Your father made his choice. Now I'm making mine." "I can't believe this." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I thought you guys were happy." "We grew apart. It happens. People change." "How can you be so calm?" Sophia wiped her eyes. "He cheated on you. He humiliated you." "He set me free." The words surprised me. "I've been living my life in neutral for years. This is my chance to change that." Marcus studied me carefully. "You seem different, stronger somehow." "I feel different, like I've been asleep and finally woke up." We ordered lunch, though none of us had much appetite. I answered their questions as honestly as I could. "What about Dad?" Sophia asked. "Have you talked to him since Saturday?" "No, we're communicating through lawyers now." "God, this is so weird. What do we say to him?" "Whatever you want. This is between your father and me. You don't have to choose sides. He's still your father." "I'm so angry at him," Marcus said quietly. "How could he do this to you?" "He fell out of love with me. It happens." "Don't make excuses for him," Sophia said fiercely. "I'm not. I'm just being realistic. Your father and I built a good life together. We raised you two. We had 3.5 decades together. But sometimes things end." After lunch, I hugged them both, promised to keep them updated. I went to the gallery, my sanctuary. The moment I walked through the doors, I felt calmer. My boss, Helena Vasquez, looked up when I entered. "Evelyn, how was the party?" "It was eventful. Do you have a minute?" I told her about Richard, about the divorce, about needing to throw myself into work. "Oh, honey," Helena pulled me into a hug. "Men are idiots, all of them." "Some of them." "What do you need from me?" "More hours, more responsibility. I want to curate the spring exhibition. I want something big to focus on." Helena studied me. "That's a huge undertaking. Are you sure?" "I need it. I need to focus on something I'm passionate about, something that's mine." "All right, the spring show is yours. We'll need to start planning immediately." Perfect. And it did consume my life, but in the best way possible. I threw myself into work with a ferocity I'd forgotten I possessed. I stayed late almost every night, visiting artist studios, negotiating loans from other institutions. Richard and I communicated only through our attorneys.
I moved out of the Manhattan apartment 2 weeks later, found a smaller place in Greenwich Village, a pre-war one-bedroom with exposed brick and creaky floors and windows that actually opened. It was a third the size of the apartment I'd shared with Richard, and I loved every single inch of it. The first night, I ordered Thai food, sat on the floor because my furniture hadn't arrived yet, and ate pad thai straight from the container. No fine china, no proper table settings, no pretending. Just me, sitting on the floor of my new home, and it felt like freedom tasted like peanut sauce and lime. Linda came by with wine. "Oh, Evie, this place is perfect for you. It feels like you." "You think so?" "Richard thinks I'm insane." "Richard can go to hell. This place has soul." We drank wine from coffee mugs and talked until 3 in the morning. "Are you scared?" Linda asked. "Terrified, but also excited. Is that weird?" "Not at all. You're finally living for yourself." Over the next few months, I built a new life piece by piece. I had coffee dates with friends I'd neglected. I discovered I liked going to movies alone. I took a pottery class. I was terrible at it, but I didn't care. I reconnected with my college roommate, Patricia. She was divorced too, thriving in her second act. "The best part," she told me, "is realizing you don't need permission anymore. Want to eat cereal for dinner? Do it. Want to paint your bedroom purple? Paint away." The divorce proceedings moved forward slowly. Richard tried to be generous at first, but the guilt evaporated once the financial reality set in. There was a particularly nasty fight about the Connecticut house. Richard wanted to sell it. I wanted to keep it. "Why?" David asked. "It's huge for one person." "It's where I raised my children. It's full of memories. I'm not ready to let it go."
So we fought for the house. I agreed to take less from the investment accounts in exchange. 5 months after my 60th birthday party, the divorce was finalized. I got the Connecticut house, $2 million from investments, a portion of Richard's retirement accounts, and alimony of $7,000 a month for 10 years. David had warned me the last meeting would be emotional, but when the day came, I felt only relief. Richard looked older, more tired. The excitement of his new relationship had apparently worn off. We sat across from each other, our attorneys between us. "Evelyn," Richard's voice was quiet, "I want you to know I'm sorry for how things ended, for hurting you." I looked at him, this man I'd spent most of my life with, and tried to feel something, but there was only distant fondness. "I'm sorry, too, that we couldn't make it work." We signed the papers, divided our lives with pen strokes. As I stood to leave, Richard touched my arm. "Are you happy in your new life?" I thought about my small apartment, about the spring exhibition that was coming together beautifully, about pottery class and solo movie outings and dinners with friends. "Yes," I said honestly, "I really am. Are you?" He hesitated. "I'm trying to be." "Then I hope you succeed. I don't wish you ill, Richard. I just wish to be free of this." And with that, I walked out a divorced woman. Evelyn Foster again, legally. I wanted my own name back. Evelyn is building a completely new life at 60. If this story is inspiring you, please take a moment to subscribe to DRE Venge Stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to start over. Hit that like button and let's continue this journey together. The transformation gets even better. The spring exhibition opened on a warm evening in late April to rave reviews. A fresh voice, contemporary women artists reclaiming their narrative, featured work from 12 artists, all women over 50 who'd either restarted their careers after raising families or pivoted entirely from other professions. There was a sculptor who'd been a tax attorney until 55, a painter who'd started seriously working only after her husband died, a mixed media artist who'd spent 30 years as a homemaker before discovering she had something to say. Their work was raw, honest, powerful. It spoke to transformation and resilience. It spoke to me. The opening night was packed. Critics, collectors, art lovers. Helena gave a speech about the importance of showcasing diverse voices. Then she turned the microphone over to me. I stood before a room of strangers and friends, my heart pounding. A year ago, I began, I thought my life was essentially over. Not in a dramatic way, but in a slow, creeping way. I'd done the things you're supposed to do, built a career, raised children, supported my spouse, checked all the boxes, and I was fine, comfortable, but I wasn't alive. I paused. Then my marriage ended, and I realized that comfortable isn't the same as alive. Going through the motions isn't the same as living with intention. Being fine isn't the same as being fulfilled. People were listening intently. These artists refused to accept that their best years were behind them. They refused to fade quietly. They claimed space, demanded attention, insisted on being seen and heard, not despite their age, but because of it, because they'd earned wisdom and perspective and the freedom that comes from no longer caring what anyone else thinks. I saw Helena wiping her eyes, saw Sophia and Marcus looking proud, saw Linda nodding encouragement. This exhibition isn't just about art, it's about transformation, about refusing to let other people's expectations define your worth, about understanding that you are never too old, never too late, never too anything to start over and build the life you actually want. The applause was thunderous. After the speeches, as people mingled, I found myself alone in front of my favorite piece, a mixed media installation by an artist named Joan Ravenel, 73 years old. Titled Emergence, it showed a figure breaking free from a cocoon made of newspapers, bills, grocery lists, to-do notes. It's beautiful. I turned. A man stood beside me, late 50s, maybe early 60s. Kind eyes, silver hair, navy blazer, and an easy smile. It is, I agreed. Joan is my sister. I'm incredibly proud of her. She spent 30 years raising 4 kids. The moment the youngest left for college, she turned the dining room into a studio and never looked back. That's wonderful. I'm William, by the way. William Ravenel. He extended his hand. Evelyn Foster. I shook it, feeling the warmth of his grip. I curated the exhibition. Then I owe you my gratitude. Joan's been trying to get gallery representation for 5 years. You gave her a chance. Her work speaks for itself. Age is irrelevant when the art is this good. We stood together, looking at the piece. Can I ask you something? William said. That speech you gave, was that personal? I considered deflecting, but something about his straightforward kindness made me honest. Very personal. I got divorced this year, after 37 years of marriage. That must have been difficult. It was, and it wasn't. Mostly it was necessary. He nodded thoughtfully. My wife died 3 years ago, cancer. We had 42 wonderful years together, and I miss her every day. But I've also discovered that there's life after loss. Different, but still valuable. I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry for yours, even if it was a different kind of loss. We talked for another 20 minutes about art and life and the strange gift of starting over later in life. He was a history professor at Columbia, had 3 adult children, loved hiking and classical music, and terrible puns that made me groan and laugh. When he asked if I'd like to have coffee sometime, I heard myself say yes. Fair warning, I said, I'm terrible at dating, haven't done it in 4 decades. Neither have I. We can be terrible at it together. He gave me his card, smiled that easy smile, and moved on. I stood there with possibility in my hand and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. At 61, divorced, starting over, I was finally living the life I was meant to live. Not the life I'd been assigned, not the life others expected. My life, on my terms, and it was just beginning. We're almost at the end of Evelyn's incredible journey. If her story has touched you, please subscribe to DRE Revenge Stories and share this with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment telling me what part of Evelyn's story resonated most with you. Now, let's see how her new chapter unfolds. The coffee date with William turned into dinner.
Dinner turned into a weekend hiking trip. The weekend hiking trip turned into regular Thursday evenings at the Symphony. We took it slow. Both of us had been burned, him by loss, me by betrayal. Both of us were cautious about opening our hearts again. But slowly, carefully, we built something real. He made me laugh, actually laugh, the kind that comes from your belly and makes your face hurt. He listened when I talked about my work, asked thoughtful questions, remembered details. He didn't try to fix me or change me or mold me into someone else. He just liked me for exactly who I was. The Connecticut house, which I'd fought so hard to keep, became my sanctuary. I converted one of the spare bedrooms into a home office, another into an art studio where I could paint and experiment without worrying about making a mess. Sophia and Marcus came for Sunday dinners. Linda visited on weekends. Maya and Carlos and their daughter became regular guests. The house that had felt like a museum during my marriage became a home, filled with laughter and conversation and actual life. Richard called occasionally, brief, awkward conversations about logistics, tax documents that needed signing, questions about property division. Claire had moved in with him. Sophia had mentioned, diplomatically, that his relationship seemed strained. I felt no satisfaction in that, just a distant sadness that he'd blown up our marriage for something that apparently wasn't what he'd hoped. But that was his journey, not mine. One Thursday evening, after the Symphony, William walked me to my door. "I have something to ask you," he said. "Okay." "My daughter is getting married in Vermont next month, and I'd really like you to come with me as my date." I smiled. "I'd love to." He kissed me then, gentle and sweet and full of promise. When he pulled away, he said, "You know what I love about you?" "What?" "You're not afraid anymore. You're not performing or pretending or trying to be what you think people want. You're just you, and you is pretty extraordinary." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you for seeing that. Thank you for letting me." After he left, I sat in my living room, in my house, in my life, and thought about the path that had brought me here. A year ago, I'd stood in a ballroom feeling empty and lost. Now I felt full, complete, whole. Not because of William, though he was wonderful, but because I'd finally found myself, the person I was before I became wife, mother, hostess, the person I'd always been underneath all the roles and expectations. Evelyn Foster, artist, curator, sister, friend, mother, and now maybe someone's partner again, but this time on equal footing, this time as herself, not as someone's supporting actor. My phone buzzed, a text from William. "Thank you for tonight. You make the Symphony better. You make everything better." I typed back, "The feeling is mutual. Sleep well." Then I set down my phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and stood at the window looking out at the stars. 61 years old, divorced, starting over, and absolutely, completely, wonderfully alive. This was my second act, my emergence, my beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what came next. Thank you for listening to Evelyn's story, a woman who discovered that endings can be beginnings, that 60 is not too late to start over, and that the courage to walk away from what's comfortable can lead you to what's real. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to DR Evenge Stories. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you thought. Where are you watching from? What time is it there? And tell me, have you ever had to choose between comfort and authenticity? I've added 2 more powerful stories on the screen for you. Click one now, and let's continue this journey together. Until next time, remember, it's never too late to reclaim your life. You are never too old to start over, and you deserve to live authentically, not just comfortably. Much love. See you soon.